Hi, Damien and Marcus from 100 Not Out here. MP.
Yes, Damo.
We all know the importance of having a diary, but who wants a boring old day planner?
Not me.
Enter the Journey of Me.
Ta-da!
The incredible 8-month wellness journal designed especially for wellness peeps like you.
Yes, Damo, this beautiful 8-month wellness guide is filled with questions, planners, exercises, reflective notes and more. Endorsed by the Up for a Chat girls and loved the world over, the Journey of Me is a must-have if you're ready to live your best life for life.
To purchase your very own Journey of Me and receive a free set of inspirational postcards, simply enter the code COUCH at www.wellinew.com. That's www.wellineeux.com.
TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Julie Tenner.
And I'm Bridget Wood.
And today's podcast is sponsored by Charlie Martin Photography, who you may have noticed has popped up on our Instagram and maybe even our Facebook feeds. So she's the photographer that will be sponsoring our Nourishing the Mother retreat and taking professional photography of all of the products and experiences that those women are going through on that day and through those businesses that are collaborating. So Charlie Martin Photography specialises in promo, product, family and branding portraiture. She's done the most amazing work for myself and my business and my family portraits in my home. So I can't recommend her highly enough.
They are just stunning. Can I say, I'm looking at this wall. We're in Julie's house and I'm looking at this wall of photos and honestly,
they're amazing, aren't they? She isn't the photographer that takes posed family, everybody smile at camera photos. She's the photographer that takes your family on an experience somewhere and she takes moments. And I look at every single one of those photos on my wall and there's not one that's posed. They're all my kids and my family in action and I can instantly be transported to that moment just by looking at that image. You know, that giggle, that moment, the way they were at 2 or at 4 or whatever it was, because she takes emotion in a photo and she's just... Her specialty is just portraiture. She's extraordinary at capturing an essence and a moment and a vibe. And that goes for product and branding. Like you've all seen, well, I'm hoping most of you have seen my Pleasure Nutritionist page. And if there's something about even that image that speaks to you, that was her.
That.
Yeah, but that's her, right? She goes, tell me what your concept is, and she pulls it out of you and with you, and you know,
There's
you feel
such
amazing.
an art to that. There is
such an art, such an art. So if you're after even Christmas family portraits and photos, if you're looking at branding your business and you want a kick-ass website and imagery, then you can definitely look her up. And you'll find her through mostly Instagram, but I think she's got a Facebook, and I think she's building her new website at the moment, so they might be your 2 ports of call. But we were thinking with today, because it was sponsored by a photographer, that it brought up such an image discussion with us about comparison and beauty. And so that's what we wanted to talk about today. So Bridget, I'm handing over you to kick us off.
And I'm going to kick it off by saying comparison is a bitch. Because honestly, and you know, I guess talking about the Instagram, Facebook, but particularly Instagram.
I know, I still really struggle with Insta.
You know, like it's so easy. You can be feeling great, right? And then you hop on Instagram and you just start to go through people's photos and then your self-worth's taking a little bit of a hit, you know, and and you end up feeling really flat afterwards, and sometimes you're not quite aware of why that's happened.
And it's not even, for me, it's not even images of other women or bodies or families. No. It's the freaking raw foodists that I'm obsessed with, that I follow. And then every day I finally turn them on and I go, oh God, why am I not creating this?
Look at how much I've cooked. Damn them.
I know. Why am I not fitting that in? But it looks so perfect, doesn't it? But the point is,
it's just it's so contrived, right? And the funny thing is, like, I was having a particularly flat day last week, I think, and I posted in a group of close girlfriends that I'm in, and I said, my Instagram feed makes me want to vomit because I was like, my life looks so fantastic, and right now I just want to, fall in a hole. And so even I'm guilty of it, right? Like we all are, because ultimately, it's a Instagram's a beautiful way to it's like a curation of stunning imagery. But I think there's a lie behind that too, that it's not presenting the whole picture.
It's a branding in itself, isn't it? There's a particular look and a vibe that you're going for when you're looking on Instagram.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's the thing, you know, you don't want to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, I'm not going to engage with that, because ultimately there's so much inspiration.
Yeah, it's true too.
But it's when that comparison starts to creep in, where you start to find you judging yourself for not, you know, being that successful, or not having that house, or that those homewares, or that food that you're feeding your children and nourishing yourself with. It's when you start to, you know, beat yourself up that, you know, okay, like, I need to look at this situation a little bit differently for what it is. And, you know, another more probably apt quote was from the Buddha, who said that comparison's the thief of joy.
Ooh, I like that.
Because it is, you know, like, as soon as you're comparing yourself to somebody else, you're no longer sitting in your own authentic self, because you're asking yourself to be unlike yourself. You're asking yourself to be somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when you dim your light. You dim your own capacity to shine what's truly yours.
Yes. And you and I were talking about this today, and you're extending it beyond even that in terms of looking at value systems.
That's right, yeah.
Do you want to highlight that a little?
Yeah, sure. So, and in fact, we're doing quite a bit of work on values, and in terms of what your life's demonstrating is important to you, we're doing quite a bit of that work on that in our retreat. And it's really powerful work, because what ultimately happens when people, you know, maybe are having a challenge in their life, or they're not feeling like they're doing enough, or they're successful enough, or, you know, whatever that is, I'm not enough, that general theme. A really key question to ask yourself is, who are you comparing yourself to? Because you wouldn't have those beliefs or have those thoughts about yourself if you didn't have something or somebody to compare yourself to be thinking that you should be doing something that you're not already doing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody is successful, in inverted commas, in the areas of life that are most important to them, or in the values in their life that are most important to them. Like, it's really, really easy, especially as mothers, like, you know, we're terrible for it, around looking at other mothers and thinking less of yourself because that mother maybe created an incredible costume, or look at what dinner she's serving to her children, or look at how present she's able to be at the, you know, school, whatever it is, or, you know, look at her, you know, she's not working, or she's, you know, whatever it is. It's something that you feel that you are less than for compared to what somebody else is doing. Is negating all that you have to offer, and not seeing where you do all the same things, where you have all the same traits that you see in that person, or all the same actions that you see that person doing. Just in the area of life. Yeah, in the area of life that's most important to you. Because it's futile to ever think that you're going to go and climb Mount Everest, or go and, you know, raise a family of 6 children in, you know, some random countryside, growing your own food, when your life does not demonstrate one iota that any of those things are important to you. Like, it's laughable, really, when you can see that those things, you've never cooked, you've never grown your own food before. You know, you really, as much as you might dream of having a family of 6 children, you really don't want that. It's a fantasy, right?
Yeah.
But yet we so often think whimsically that, they're so successful, look at how nourishing their life is, or look at how wonderful it is.
Yes, and it's often in the pitfalls, though, that we feel we're not performing in, or that we're harbouring some sort of sensitivity or vulnerability about, though, isn't it? Like, there's often the reason that we compare ourselves on any particular thing is because there's a tangible point of vulnerability there, right?
Yeah.
There's something there that we're not honouring within ourselves or our journeys. It's not saying it needs to be in the version of that person, but the fact that we're recognising it in them, and it's creating an emotional trigger for us. The should and the shoulding, and the implosion of guilt and shame and judgment is an emotional trigger.
Yeah, and I mean, as we always talk about, like, emotions are one-sided, perceptions are feedback. So emotions, from a human behaviour point of view, are lies, because they're not seeing the whole side. And I mean, emotions are beautiful because that's what makes us human. But they're also a way for us to ask questions of ourselves to help dig a little bit deeper.
Flags, right?
Yeah, you know, and in the case of comparing yourself to somebody else, it's asking, well, what am I seeing in that person that I'm not owning in me?
Yeah.
You know, because if it's something that you admire in that person, well, often, you know, we're too humble to see that what we see in them is in us to the same degree, but just in our own form being our highest values.
It was like when we did the infertility podcast and you were saying I really had to look at my life and see I had labelled myself as infertile, but in fact, where had my fertility gone? Because we're never lacking, we're always whole.
Everything's always
and my
there.
fertility had gone into my business and I was creating such life and energy there. So I was not infertile.
No.
That energy had shifted somewhere. So it's basically the same concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is whatever it is that we're comparing out, I'm not as good a mother, I'm not as good a cook, I don't whatever, that it's not in that form. Where are we those things in a different area of our lives?
And I mean, you can't even isolate it. You can't even, in the case of motherhood, because there's nowhere is there ever not love. Like, so everything is love, because love is a balance of complementary opposites. So it's a balance of support and challenge, for example. And so, you know, no mother doesn't love their child. Every mother loves their child. You know, and we're so quick to often judge other mothers and other people based on our own values, you know, based on what's most important to us, based on how we think other people should live, you know. And
would you say it's based on our wounding too?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, based on where we're feeling a lack, where we're feeling like, and also, you know, another one is when we use such as imperative language, you know, if you're saying, oh, I would never do that with my child, well, that's not true, because no one never does anything, just like no one always does something.
Yes. Under what circumstances would you?
Yeah. Because you may not do it in that exact way, but you will still behave or have a trait or just display something very, very similar to what you're seeing, you know, whether it's, you know, a child screaming on the supermarket floor and the mother's ignoring the child. You know, the emotional part of you as a mother might want to go rescue that child and think, you know, what a bad mother she is for just leaving a child. But where do you do the same thing? You know, where do you ignore your child when they are displaying a sense of need for you or, you know?
Yes. No, like I do really get it.
Yeah, it's just in the form that we judge it, you know, like, oh, how could they do that in the supermarket or how could they blah, blah, blah. We're just bringing that judgment to it.
Yeah. And so maybe I'm not present in play, but where else am I present with my kids?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't make the most nourishing food, which I do, but maybe I don't.
Yes.
If I don't make the most nourishing food, where am I nourishing my kids?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so it's just about shifting that comparison, breaking it down into who am I comparing myself with, what are the difference in our value systems based on what our lives are demonstrating is most important to us, right?
Yes, totally.
And then going beyond that to see I am everything. So the fact that I'm feeling jealous, judgmental or comparative in that thing, where am I not owning that within myself? Because I'm displaying it, it'll just be somewhere different.
Yeah, that you haven't recognised.
Yes, and as soon as I recognise, honour and value that aspect of me, it almost negates the need to be in a comparative mode,
and
right?
also the comparison might not be as strong because if you're owning what you see as being triggered for you, when that comparison behaviour comes up, it won't really be as big a deal for you because you will have recognised what that's trying to show for you. You know, because everything is a feedback and everybody's coming into our lives and into our world, into our day to help us love more of ourselves, which is an abstract concept. I really get that. Like, it can sound so, you know, beyond our realm of thinking, right? Because it's like, what do you mean? Like, you know? Yes. But I think it's asking yourself that question when you get charged either really positively on something or really negatively on something. What's that trying to teach me about myself? Where am I that?
Yes.
Is really powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Because, you know, I think about the countless hours, and I still do it. We all do it. You know, where you spend, like, getting stuck in Facebook or getting stuck on Instagram, just, like, looking at profiles or looking at pictures. And, you know, it goes beyond just, say, looking for inspiration to kind of getting caught in the rabbit hole. You know, it's the spiral.
Yes.
And it all serves because it can create inspiration and it can also help you switch off and help you do some background processing in your brain. Like, it's, you know, it's all great. But I sometimes think, oh, you know, if only I could turn that, you know, procrastination or that kind of rumination into something more active that's much more aligned with my values, you know, much more aligned with my authentic self. You know, if we could all sit in that much more powerfully into what's true for us. Because, you know, we all get glimmers of it. We all get, you know, glimmers of our capacity, our essence, our truth. And I think maybe we don't let ourselves fully see it all the time because it would be blinding in some ways to us because our capacity really is limitless. And so, you know, we judge ourselves because we need to keep that sense of lack there to push us to strive, to push us to grow. But it's, you know, sometimes...
I know, sometimes, Bridget, when you're speaking, I go, that sounds so big, I think I've missed parts of it.
Yeah, sometimes I go, oh, what did I just say then? Yeah, so sorry.
I completely love it. Every time you say something, I totally get stuff out of it. But I just had them over there where I went, nah, you lost me. I have no idea.
Yeah, we need to bring it down a bit. But yeah, the comparison thing. I don't know, what is there a big trigger for you around that you find yourself
look,
comparing?
a big trigger for me, I suppose, is because I'm hugely passionate about women and women finding their authentic self-love, right?
Yeah.
So my biggest thing would be body image.
Yeah.
But then that's been my biggest journey too.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So there's no surprises there why that's that. And it kills me when I see a woman not owning everything she could be, or that she already is, that I recognise and see in her, but that she does not recognise or see in herself. And this whole culture that seems to be bred in women that is competitive and comparative and almost a tearing of each other down rather than a collaboration of pulling each other up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm constantly trying to pull that apart and understand it more, and I used to get really caught up in it, whereas now I just recognise that is a comparison going on, right? So if there's someone around me trying to tear someone down, if I get caught up in the cycle of bitching about someone, I have to have that moment where I go, hang on a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What am I not owning? What is the value system? What is the need or the deep desire that I'm not recognising for myself to own?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, you know, it used to be, which I think I said on a previous podcast, it used to be, right, women that were really made up and had loads of makeup and just always looked hugely glamorous. I used to have a huge issue with them because I was like, you're like the anti-feminist. I don't even like you. Like, to be real, man.
Damn you for being beautiful.
I know, exactly, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it was this kind of middle ground thing of, on one level I was completely fascinated and drawn towards the beauty, but on the other hand I was completely hating it because it was highlighting, or I felt like it was spotlighting for me everything that I wasn't. Now I see it completely differently, but I can completely still see that kind of story playing out with women a lot of the time. And it's that concept for me of beauty, of that. You know, I've said before in these podcasts, none of the world's great seductresses were the world's most beautiful women. They were the world's most seductive women because they authentically owned who they were. They owned their flaws and they flaunted them. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not that my thighs or your thighs are sexier. It's whatever I perceive myself to be is the energy that's going to be received and therefore perceived.
Yes, absolutely.
So, you know, I mean, I think I've also said this before, that, I mean, whilst I've kind of been the slimmest right now that I've ever been, in my adult years, certainly not, you know, in my teenage years, it's the most body confident I've been, but I would say I've still got the jiggly belly and the bits and pieces. But for some reason, I just love them now, and I'm like, hey man, it's just, you know, this is it. This is me. This is my life story. And I love what that is. And so I feel like if I can be comfortable with that, it becomes very easy. And I dress with what is seducing me, right? So each day I have that intention of starting my day with opening my wardrobe. What's seducing me today? What am I going to put on that's going to represent how I'm feeling today and express that to the world? And that is seducing me, right? That's seducing me in the way that I feel great in my skin. And that is what people see. They're not actually seeing my physical body or, you know, my boobs, my legs, my da-da-da-da-da. It's not broken down in that.
Because you know, you've chosen to dress with an intention. You know, which so few people really do. Like, you know, I think that we just go grab whatever's, or maybe we do unconsciously, I suppose we do. There's a reason why we're choosing the clothes that we choose. But to actually ask yourself the question, what is calling me to adorn myself with, or what is calling me to drape myself with, you know, almost in a seductive kind of way.
Yeah, it really is. And it really, I feel like we spend so much of our lives striving for this idealized version of perfection, the perfect body, the perfect, and we tear ourselves apart in the process. And the more that we strive for perfection, the further we get from loving ourselves, right? It's almost like this catch-22. And this for me is the difference literally between true beauty versus learned beauty.
Yeah.
So learned beauty is what we're taught is beautiful. It's the images that are put in front of us, the training from our culture and our
it's
lifestyles.
how to, viewing ourselves through that male gaze, I think, which is something that we're so...
Yeah, but what we perceive to be the male gaze, right?
Yeah.
Because
a lot of men will say, wait, I don't even know why my girlfriend wears makeup, or I don't even know why she... Like, it's so much... It is so much of a...
Yeah, and it's also not necessarily the most beautiful woman in the room that's going to be the woman that, I don't know, is the, the honeycomb to the bees. It'll be the woman who's
owning herself.
Oh, totally. And feeling the most seductive, because that's the energy that's going out, and that is what is attractive. That's what pulls you in. It's a magnet, right?
Yeah.
You want more of that, and you kind of want to own a bit of it, so you're going to come closer to it.
Yeah.
That's what really owning your beauty is that it's got nothing to do, really, in a sense, with what you're physically put together with. It's the emotion, the intent, and the seduction you have within you that creates the magnet that flows outwards, right?
Yeah, totally.
As opposed to learned beauty that is really seeking the approval of others and not...
I guess true beauty is seeing that nothing is missing within yourself and highlighting in a way that's maybe almost a bit playful, what you most love about yourself, whereas learned beauty is that perception of lack. It's that perception of I need to eat this to lose weight, or I need to exercise for the next 3 months and then I'll be...
Yeah, or I need to wear this to be sexy.
Yeah, And, that's not to say that you can't do all those things, but I think it's beginning, a change in your diet, or beginning an exercise regime, or, beginning a new way of dressing or whatever, from a place that sees that you're whole anyway. That you don't need any of those things, but rather you'd like to do those things to feel more vital, and those things are for love as opposed to I'll do this and then I'll get X or feel X or be X.
Yes, that's right. It's much more grounded, isn't it? True beauty really has a really deep grounding connection that can't be shaken, as opposed to learned beauty that someone just needs to say something and, your confidence is shattered and, you're running for the hills. It also comes from...
And that's ultimately what the whole diet industry is built on.
Yes.
The diet food industry is built on that idea that you're never going to get what's sold to you because there's this constant loop of feeling like a failure on it, and constantly feeling like if I can just do X, then I'll get that outcome. But if there's not the love there, if there's not the acceptance of all of yourself, flaws and otherwise, flaws just being a judgmental term in itself, but then it's going to elude you, whatever it is that you're seeking until you see that you have it anyway.
It's really true, isn't it? It's fascinating. Yeah. And that's totally why we get to that moment of, oh, so wow, sex, I only need to have that orgasm disappear. Or, I'm nearly at my goal weight, I only need to stack it all back on again. Yeah. Right? It's exactly the same cycle because we never actually get into the underlying beliefs and the processes that are sitting there behind it.
Yes.
And the soul growth and the real sensual, seductive connection to your soul and through the human body. You're always going to be on this learned beauty loop that is always going to have you running a punishment and reward that just has you constantly imploding on that guilt cycle, and you're back to eating foods that are good and bad and so here you go again, right? So we're never actually getting to that oh well moment because you're not actually ever going beyond that physical level. Yeah,
it's just the good and bad, the label, the outside judgment, all that stuff. No, asking the internal question.
Yeah.
I guess another thing that I suppose echoes of teenagehood, when you'd find somebody would say, don't compare yourself to other people, just be you. What does that even mean? Because I think that so often we hear that kind of refrain, like just be yourself, and like it's thrown around like you should just know how to do that. I think that we're often seeing ourselves through the eyes of others, and it can be challenging to ground yourself enough to ask yourself the question, or how do I just be me? What is me? You know, as I grow in my life and my values change and my life takes a different path, or things come into my life that shake things up. How do you get back to your core self and live from an authentic space? Like, I'd love to ask you, you know, if somebody says to you, just be you, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I'm going to answer it, but I was totally thinking I want to ask you too, because there's so much about this that's ringing for me in an entrepreneurial brain, because thinking in an entrepreneurial way and certainly having businesses that are entrepreneurial is an incredibly different way to what the majority of my friendship circles and understanding yours too, family circles are. So to even be able to maintain your sense of vision and drive in amongst that...
The noise of...
is how do you even do that? And that is a step in authenticity, isn't it? And I keep thinking to myself, how do we teach this to our daughters?
Oh, that's massive.
You know, how do I think about all of the lessons that I've learned as a woman that have got me to where I am now, loving my body, my skin, and everything that affords me. But how do I teach that to my children? Because if I think about I watched this movie yesterday, which is so funny because it was a movie I loved when I was a teenager and I'd forgotten about it, and it kept coming up for me in the last 6 months, and I bought it.
Yeah.
And I watched it yesterday.
What movie was it?
It's called Dangerous Beauty.
Oh,
I'm going to say that
I've never heard of it.
Because I'm a bit embarrassed.
Well, you couldn't say that you watched a movie and not tell us what it was.
No, yeah, totally. But what I find fascinating about it is I look back on my life now and I realise that there were so many indicators from my childhood and adolescence that were all like flags going, you're coming back here. You know, this is a flag of interest. You'll be desire back here, you know, and this is one of those memories for me. So this is a movie all about seduction, which is fascinating, isn't it? So I've almost come full circle and it's coming back up for me again. And it's a movie about this mother who trains her daughter to be a Venetian courtesan. And she has these two fantastic lines that I just keep ruminating about. I just wrote a blog post about them actually, which was, one of them is to be able to give pleasure, you have to know pleasure. Oh, wow. Which is so true. And that's what I say all the time. Couldn't
every mother teach that to her teenage daughter?
This is my point. This is where I'm going with this.
Damn You magazines, which are all about Dolly magazine, all about pleasuring boys and men.
Seriously, and even the sex education that we get is about condoms and safe sex and avoiding pregnancy or abstinence.
It's just so external.
There's nothing further than that. And the idea of seduction and sexuality is so physical and in this very limited spectrum of what it actually is. Oh, that's the other one. That desire starts in the mind. So she's telling her daughter how it doesn't need to be, you can be just as seductive with the movement of a wrist as you can be being fully nude, you know, without even showing an inch of flesh.
Yeah.
And this is the art of sensuality and seduction, right? This is the magnetism of what seduction is that it has nothing ultimately to do with what that physical vessel is and everything to do with the intent, the energy, the desire and the magnetism from which that's expanding. Right?
I love that.
So how do we, and I have been thinking about this exact question the last, my daughter's not there yet. Thank God, because I've got time to think about it. Yeah. But I do think to myself, what if I had had that instruction as an adolescent young woman on how to awaken my sensuality and understanding that the power of seduction was not what I physically did,
look like, or
gave,
wore,
or looked, that it belonged to me as my true essence and my expression. How different would that journey and foray through love have been? I don't know.
Well, you'd have a totally different life.
Yeah,
your life
no
would
doubt.
not be like this, And so, and I guess that's that reminder too, like you wouldn't go back and change it because you absolutely need to have that.
I wouldn't go back and change it unless you think about it though.
But however, what a gift that there's no doubt about it that you need to impart this because this is your life's learning.
Yeah, that's right.
And so therefore, your daughter has chosen you as her mother to learn this from you, to grow. Powerful. In that way, and she'll have her other voids, this was a big void for you, and so this has put you on the path to filling it through this knowledge and through these experiences that you're having. So naturally your daughter will grow up with this not being a void for her. She'll create it somewhere else because we all have to have them. It's what drives us. But it's really, I mean, and I'm so inspired by that too, about the prospect of having a daughter, and same thing, you know, having a daughter that, you know, doesn't use a contraceptive pill for 10 or 15 years and have zero connection with her own bodily functions, because that's my void. You know, because we don't want our children, I suppose, to go through what we went through, in inverted commas, like it's bad, you know, because ultimately it's perfect. It's how we've grown. But it's just what a transformation of femininity and womanhood and teenagehood for girls and women if they were able to have this connection and understanding of their essence and of their true power
and of their true beauty, right? As opposed to learned beauty. That it is totally about owning every aspect, and that mind and intelligence and intent and energy is just.
And to me, it's that middle ground, because I think that there's kind of two quite disparate schools of thought. You know, kind of there's that hardcore feminist, you know, almost that you can't have all of these beautiful things because then you're kind of too soft and you're not standing enough in your power. So just kind of don't go into that beauty stuff.
Be the same as the men.
Yeah, be the same. And then you have perhaps on the other end of the scale, the more superficial beauty side, which is lacking in substance, you would say. Meeting in the middle is this idea of awakening. You know, it's both sides. It's bringing in that inherent beauty, and through bringing that in, there isn't even the need to have this feminist angle, because there's the awakening. There's the bringing in of the true beauty at a physical and a spiritual and a bodily level, you know, a soul level. I don't know, I just love it.
I know, I love it too. So what's the question you asked me?
We've totally gone off topic. But that was really, like, if somebody says to you, just be you, what does that mean? How does that look like?
What does that look like? Okay, what does that look like? I feel like that's my 30s. I feel like my teens and my 20s were so much about figuring out the shit and learning the really hard stuff, you know. And my 30s were almost, have moved through into, this all kind of makes sense to me now. I'm kind of past it and beyond it, and it's sitting somewhere much deeper in my body. And the awakening that's created is, for me, what owning that is. So owning myself is being able to open-heartedly share my authentic bright light with anyone I come into contact with. So that for me is a little flirtatious, and that doesn't mean flirty like, I don't know, Bridget, I'm going to crack on to your husband. It's not flirty like that. So I think we need to just live and also reframe what it is that flirtation means. Flirtation is a fun, playful, a fun, absolutely, seduction. That's another podcast. A fun, playful way to enjoy getting what you want in a moment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I can choose to turn my light on, laugh, giggle, play, have fun at that job interview, and woo in a way those people that are there.
Yeah.
I could choose to walk into a cafe and just smile at the bartender and, you know, have a chat and a joke and love the coffee. I just love that coffee that you've given me, and that's amazing. And, you know, I'm just digging your hat and feeling completely free to be me without that chatter of, I've just said the wrong thing, and what if I did this, and I think I'm bulging out of my pants here, and it's totally none of that. It's actually just the more that I'm able to open up my heart space, which is my seductive space anyway, right? We talked about that being our biggest magnet, and feel that I have a completely authentic voice without judgment. The easier and the freer it is for me to, in commas, flirt with everyone, and that is my friends, my children, my husband, the people I walk into a shop with. The more I'm able to have fun with them in my authentic way, the easier that energy flows back to me and fills that joy cup even higher. So I'm vibrating even higher, and I go, it's free to be me! And I'm just loving it! And then it just means, I don't know, for me, that's been my biggest thing, as opposed to feeling like I'm crusted over in some way and there's all these judgments and belief systems and criticisms and comparisons that shut me down. It's been, and that is peeling back the layers of doing all of the stuff we talk about and peeling back what all those crusts are that prevent me from being able to be open-heartedly authentic with anyone I come into contact with. And if there's a trigger, right, that's another level, another layer, and we talk about peeling that back. But for me, truly owning my beauty, my essence, and who I am is being able to shine my authentic, joyful, playful light on whoever I come into contact with. And I think for the most part, I managed to do that pretty well.
I would agree. In my experience, anyway. Have you?
So that's for me what it is. So when I think about how do I want my daughters to own their beauty, it would be to love and appreciate the beauty and the essence and the light they see in every woman that's around them, rather than comparing them, because they have equally those measures in different areas, right? And it's that their version of themselves is more vibrant than anything they could learn to do.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
So if they're able to just, and I imagine there'll be so many layers for them and most likely triggers for me as we pull this apart as they get older, right? But the more I come back to, you're just awesome being you. Yeah. Just be you. And I know it sounds cliche when I say that like that, but it is that way of just, and that comes from role modeling too, doesn't it? That I can't just say to my daughter, just be you because you're awesome, but not own that for myself.
Totally. Because that's the thing, words are one thing. They are seeing you every day and every moment, your behaviour, your energy. That speaks far more than anything that's going to come out of your mouth.
And my daughter's nearly 8. And it's funny, actually, I was joking, I'm having a flashback now, I was joking with some mums at school. One of the mums walked in and she said this thing to my daughter about her daughter, and my daughter's turned around and gone, no, you did not. And then she walked out, and this mum said the same thing to me, and I went, no, you did not. They all laughed around me, and we had this moment where we went, wow, that mirror is that's so intense that they're literally role modeling, right? So she is role modeling the way to interact with people, the way that I interact with people, because that's playful for me. You did not. That's what I do. I was thinking she's fully playing with how does that feel? So if I'm able to really own my brightness, it will be a much easier path for her to own hers. And it's easier for me to provide the roadmap and the tools and the words on that journey if I'm doing it for myself.
You're doing the work.
But I can't do it for myself unless I'm willing to look at what those crusts were. And I completely remember having those crusts. I remember those feelings and those
And you'll get new crusts. Because we always get new ones.
Of course. Don't even say that. I don't want to even say that.
Oh, we don't want to be unrealistic though, do we?
What about for you? What does it mean for you?
Oh my God. Gosh, I just feel like that there was so many years of... I still go back to teenagehood and just think, man, it's just a vortex, right? Of just feeling really ugly, not good enough, not smart enough, all of that.
Not enough,
really. And I mean, even quite recently, even that whole not enough thing, I think very, very few people can sit with that and say, yes, I'm enough, and believe it.
That's self-worth. I feel like everyone at some level has a self-worth. I'm not enough, can't do enough, not good enough.
Yeah. I think it's the human condition, and I think that you will see it in anyone at any level. I remember Oprah commenting that doesn't matter who she's ever had on her show in 30 years, even Beyonce will turn around and say to her afterwards, was that okay? Was I all right? Even these people who we hold up as supposedly kind of amazing beings of achievement and beauty and success still have their own issues and self-worth issues. You never get rid of it. So it's just about how do you work with that, and how do you step in, as you said, with your experience, how do you step into what's most authentically, truly you, and I guess live unashamedly in that, and express your full self and know that this is who I am and make no apology of that. Because ultimately you'll get people who like and people who don't. And I think, and that's probably where I'm at now, is recognizing that it doesn't matter what you do, people will like you and people will not like you. And that's just how it is. And I think that so often we get really caught up in that wanting to be liked, and therefore we minimize ourselves to be liked by others.
Or we try and manipulate who we are or how we're expressing.
Yeah, we minimize ourselves, or we try to change ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and that's then when your body will start to go, no, don't do that. You know, that's not for me. Or, you know, you'll start to get feedback to say that, to help you step back into what's true for you. And so I think it's an evolving path. But yeah, for me, it's just sitting with how things feel, you know, and asking myself the question of, is this true for me? And, you know, how can I guess, get the most out of who I am and how I can bring that. And I think, you know, motherhood does that for you too, doesn't it? You know, for me, it's been that kind of, how can I grow in myself to give my children permission to do that? Because I can't ask them to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself.
Yeah, totally.
It's impossible.
Oh.
So, yeah.
It's a big worry, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm feeling very in my feminine tonight, very passive.
I know, you really are.
Yeah, I am.
Part of me is completely loving it, though.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Hopefully our listeners, it's vibing them.
We'll see.
Maybe we all need a bit more feminine energy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
It could be.
Just sending it out there.
Putting it out there, seeing if people pick it up.
Well, talking about feminine energy, we'll wrap up with another quick wrap for Charlie Martin Photography. Please have a look and connect with her through Facebook and Instagram. And you can connect with Bridget via suburbansandcastles.com. And have your movies finished? Or
They've finished.
Oh my goodness,
yeah.
So stay tuned for 2016. But you can still get in contact with Bridget through suburbansandcastles.com. And through myself at the moment is my Pleasure Nutritionist blog and website is still coming. I'm still working on it. So it's Facebook and Instagram on The Pleasure Nutritionist.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on the mothering journey.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.